Hey, Clay here at EDM Performance Accessories. Going to go through the complete threading process on our HB wire EDM, from removing the wire, loading it onto the drum, and threading it through the system from start to finish. Show you guys some tips, tricks, and the easiest way to get from start to finish on that process. First step when we're pulling the wire off of the drum, we're going to go over, we're going to turn the machine into wire prep mode right here. You'll see this screen pop up. And then we're going to open all of the doors so we have access to everything. Drop that on this machine. This machine's got the auto drop shield. Open everything up here. All right, now that we have full access to everything, we're going to get the drum parked on the right side so that we can hook our despooler up and pull the wire off of the rear of the drum. All right, we're going to use the back button on the drum, turn everything on, put it in rapid mode. Now from here, we got to get the drum parked over on the right side. So similar with putting wire on the drum, we're going to stop it simultaneous with the right limit switch. So we'll let it run over. Pause it right there. Then we're going to take our hand crank, and I'm just going to manually run the drum all the way over to the very end of the wire. And then from here, we're going to lock down our tensioner, unhook the wire, and we can pull the spool off. All right, we've got our wire over on the far right side. So the next thing I'm going to do is bring my tensioner stop down, and I'm just going to put a little pressure, and I'm going to lock my tensioner where it's at. After that is done, I can go to the back and unhook my wire from the spool. So we've got it unhooked off the drum. I'm going to go under here, give it a cut, and I can pull this wire out. That piece is garbage. Now we've got the end of our spool right here that we can hook up to our despooler. So the despooler is going to go on here in 2 steps. Put the base on. This will have some different looks. So if yours doesn't look exactly like this, not a big deal. There's a couple different variations that we've had. So we're going to run this on like that. So now we got our despooler on here. I'm going to get a little extra wire here. It's no big deal. You can cut off the extra. So I'm going to go from the bottom up. I'm going to wrap around one time. And then this one here actually has kind of a catch tab on it. So I can go down and pull that down on my tab. Get it there, and it should start bringing itself up. Some of those have slit in them, some of these have drum tabs you can catch it on. So I'm just going to do a couple turns, make sure everything is lined up here. I'm going to make sure I'm rolling on my bottom roller right here, and everything's pulling on itself. Now from here, we can go back up to the front of the machine. I'm going to turn my wire prep off, and I'm going to turn my tensioner on. Now if we run back over here, all right, we're going to let the machine sit and pull all the wire off for us. Once we get down to this far end, the tensioner motor pulling on this thing is very low power, so we can stall it out very easy with just a slight touch. So what I like to do is run over to this far end, and once it gets down to the last bit of wire, we'll stall it, unhook it, and go turn our wire tensioner off. I can trace it through. I can find the end of my wire here. That unhooked. So that's free. Let it loose and head back up here. Usually by the time you get up here, that's off. Turn that off. Turn wire prep back on. Now you can see we got all the wire off of the drum and all of the wire placed on our spool up here. All right, so we got the wire off our machine. Split this, throw it out. Now that all the wire's off, this is the best time. Get your drum wiped down, clean that up, index your carbides, get everything ready to put wire on. To start the drum loading process, first thing we got to do Back over here to our wire prep mode, turn that on. We'll get to this screen, and now we got to go get the drum over to its home position. We can turn our drum on. One click gets you in low speed. Press and hold. We'll put it in high speed. We're going to run this over to our right limit. Notice the right limit is about a ½ inch off of our limit here. And as soon as that gets there, we're going to stop it with the switch simultaneous. Right there. So as soon as it slows down, we stop it automatically. But one tip is to roll this drum forward, probably about 30 turns. So I'm going to advance the drum a little bit past this limit switch. It's right about there. If you want to count the turns out, count about 30, 35 turns will be plenty. And you'll see that that's going to kind of preset our limit on the right side in the next section of our threading video. We've got our MOLLE wire. We're going to put it on our tensioner shaft and tighten this up. You're going to want to make sure that that's snugged up pretty good. Very important step here. We have to make sure that the wire is pulling off of the right side of the spool. Regardless of which wire you use, this needs to come off the right side of the spool. We'll go down underneath around this roller here. So we go from the spool down the right side around this roller, and now we hook it up to the drum on the back. Here's a tip on hooking the wire up to the drum tabs. So what we're going to do is we're going to go underneath the drum tab, and then we're going to pull it tight underneath for the first trip. We're going to go around the top, pull it tight for the second. I'm going to go underneath it one more time and bend it over. We don't go around it multiple times or it will start trying to unravel itself. So from here, with just those two snug pulls, we're going to have a good secure anchor, and we can start pulling wire onto the drum. We're just about ready to start pulling the wire onto the machine. First thing we need to do, we need to move our left limit all the way over so our sensor doesn't hit it during the filling process. Next, what I'm going to do, I've got my right hand up on the spool of wire just to create a little bit of tension, and I'm making sure that the wire is coming down and running on this roller. What this will look like is I put a little tension with my right hand, and I'm going to start pulling the wire onto the drum. What I want to see here is I just want to make sure that that guide roller is laying it directly next to it. So once I get about 2 or 3 loops here and everything looks like it's laying up fine, we can pause there and then go to auto. Okay, so we're going to let the machine fill up to our desired wire amount. There's a little ruler on the bottom here so you can kind of estimate how much wire you're going to put on. We're going to stop this at about 250. So we'll go to about right there, and we can hit our stop button. Wire's on the machine. We're ready to start threading. When you stop it, it's going to derail a little bit. Don't worry about it. We need extra wire for the next portion where we thread the wire on. So from here, I'm just going to cut my wire free. And I'm going to take my original spool off because we're done with this until we need to fill it again. All right, we've got our wire off of the machine, got everything on the drum. So what we're going to do is take the end of our drum. What I like to do first is just pull some extra. You're going to need some extra up at the front of the machine, especially if you've got a big machine like an 800 or a 1200. So don't be shy to pull yourself even 10 feet of extra wire here. Once I know it's coming off the drum nice and smooth, the first thing I'm going to do is go to this first roller here, and we're going to go from that roller straight up. And we're going to go around this roller here. Now you can see I'm letting the wire slide through my fingers, not really advancing the drum too much. If you go too fast and freewheel that back drum is where you're going to have the wire falling off of the rollers more. So being patient, making sure you keep a little tension on the wire here is important. It keeps everything on these rollers. And then I'm going to take a magnet here and clip it. And then from here, we can snip the end of our wire and thread it through our guides. I'm pulling the wire on. Sometimes you're going to get a curly end of the wire here, and we want something nice and as straight as we can get it for threading through the guides. So I'm going to find the end of my wire, make sure I don't have any bad spots there, and then cut a fresh end. Threading through diamond guides, the cutter is really important. A set of shears typically works the best, a set of good scissors. So we're going to snip the end of the wire. If there's a burr on this, it'll make it harder to get through the diamond guide. Once we have that cut, we're going to go over through our diamond guide. And if push and wiggle a little bit. All right, we've got the wire through the upper and lower guides. Again, if you struggle a little bit at first, takes a little bit of a feel. The cutters are also very important in this, so if you need a recommendation on a good sharp cutter to cut this, just feel free to reach out to us. So with it through the upper and lower guides, I'm gonna go above the wire right here and grab on, and then I'm gonna take my magnet off, and then we're gonna go around that roller, around underneath the carbide, and around this roller, pull it down. Those guides actually help pretty good, keep the wire on those rollers for you. Gonna go to the lower head here, pull the wire through. And now from here, before we go on this lower roller, usually I like to get it through the seal plate. So a couple of different ways you can do this. The easiest way I find is I'll put it on the end of my finger, kind of keep a little tension on it, and I'll push my finger through the bottom of the plate, meet it on the other side, and kind of pinch the wire, pull it through. So I've got the wire on the other side of my seal plate. Now I can reach back around here and make sure it is on my roller right there. And we'll move up here. All right, so the wire is gonna go through our arm and over to our tensioner. If you haven't already, make sure your tensioner is down about 1 inch from the bottom. And then we are gonna go around our first roller, around our second roller here. All right, now from here, we're gonna go underneath our drum, pass it off to myself to get the wire underneath. On the tensioner, if you struggle to hit all 3 of them and pass it underneath, you can always get it underneath, and then if the tensioner is off, like this, but you have the wire underneath the drum, it's super easy to just pull this back over after the fact. So again, if the wire's falling off rollers a little bit on you, it just takes a little bit of time, a little bit of practice to get the feel for that. All right, we got wire ran through the system. We're on underneath the drum here. So we are gonna find our nearest drum tab. I'm gonna go around the top of the tab. Again, we're gonna give it a snug pull down. We're gonna go underneath the tab, just a little pull up. I'm gonna wrap around the top, and then I just like to bend it over so I have something to grab onto next time we have to pull it off. And then lastly, we will cut free just our scrap wire. All right, so we've got the wire ran all the way through the system. We're hooked back up onto our rear drum. I'm going to gently release my tensioner, lock that up out of the way, and now I'm gonna feed my drum forward slowly. Feed it in maybe 1 rotation, and now what I like to do is rock the drum back and forth, and we're gonna look and see and make sure that our rollers are all rolling. So we're checking this roller and then that roller. We're gonna check our top roller. We're gonna check our bottom couple underneath here. Run all the way back. Check our tensioner rollers. And at this point, everything should be rolling really smooth. So we've got tension on the wire. I'm just gonna start feeding some wire into the system. And what I'm looking for is to just make sure we're getting that gap that we want. And that looks perfect. So from here, we can stop there. We're gonna go down underneath our limit switch, and we're gonna run that over directly in front of the left magnetic sensor. All right, so we've got our wire on our drum, everything's threaded through the system, and we verified everything's running smooth. Now I'm going to show you how to set your left and right limit switches so that we get the wire running centered on our drum. We're going to line the left knob directly up with the left magnetic contactor. Once it's in line there, we can come back up to the top of our drum and we can put the machine in low speed mode. Now we're going to let it run all the way over to the other side of the drum. And on our first video where we loaded wire on the drum, we put 30 spins to advance the drum forward. That is where you're going to see that this gap is already set. So we shouldn't ideally have to do a lot of changes with our right hand limit switch if we put those turns in at the beginning of the process. So it's a little trick, speeds up the process a little bit, makes it a little bit more consistent. And now we're going to have our finger close on the trigger. We're going to watch this and we're going to watch the bottom magnetic sensor. If it gets too close, we'll stop it. So there we can see where it reversed. So that's a little bit thick. We're going to want to thin that out a little bit. So we're going to go back over, check this side, and then we'll adjust our left and right limit. And at this point, if you've got a full drum, you can also put it into high speed mode. Again, we're just going to keep our finger on the trigger. In case it goes too far, I want to stop it before it runs out of wire. So there. So both limits are within a usable range, but if we want to maximize a little bit of that wire, I'll show you how to adjust those over. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do, this left side, a little bit thick, so I want to advance this over to the left just a little bit, re-snug it up, and we'll go into high speed mode. And you're always better making small adjustments and working your way up just so you don't run out of wire on either side. So that's about perfect right there. I'm going to pause it. This right side, same thing. It's a little bit more wire than I want on there. So I'm going to loosen this. We're going to advance it over just a little bit, tighten it back up, hit start. Put it back into high speed mode. And then that should advance over a little bit further. Perfect. Now, if you've got a tool that's metal, you can actually trip these contactors early. So then we can sit and work on one side of the drum without having to wait for it to return both ways. So it gives you a way to do fine adjustments a little bit quicker. So you can make a little change, run back over and test it. Once we're happy with both of those, we can pause the drum. All right, that was beginning to end on removing wire, refilling, and rethreading on a HB MollyCut EDM. If you found this helpful, like and subscribe.